I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to Sibos 2025 in Frankfurt. Joining us in the Finextra TV studio now is James Hollands at Smartstream. James, thank you for joining us.
Hello Hannah, thank you for having me.
It's really good to have you on. We're talking about regulation primarily, and I want you to bring us up to date with the shifts you've seen across the regulatory framework, but also how that's having an impact on operational resiliency as well, which is an interesting one. Let's start there.
Well, it's a great question, and the most important regulation that's affecting the industry at the moment is DORA. And DORA came into effect in January this year, and it has important implications on the way that firms interact with their vendors. And being a vendor, we receive a lot of DORA schedules at the moment, because there's a contractual requirement around DORA. But within it, particularly around resilience and vulnerabilities, as a vendor, we have to be able to identify and categorize and prioritize vulnerabilities. We have to show that we have processes in place to resolve them once they're found. And we as a vendor have to map out our subcontractors as well. So there's a sort of waterfall requirement throughout the industry for us all to improve the resiliency of the industry.
So you've got your work cut out for you then.
We have, for sure.
Thank you for the update. So tell us, how are those technology payments and consumer-driven trends having an impact on payment operations, but also strategy? What's front of mind for banks and firms today?
Sure. Well, the market's moving rapidly. We're seeing certain markets leapfrogging traditional markets, particularly China and India, and that introduces new payment rails that come to the fore. So the most important thing for a payment platform is flexibility and interoperability. We have to be able to quickly add new payment rails for our customers. And then we have the influence of AI and machine learning. And you see within firms, there's areas that have to be very resilient and robust and follow compliance. And in those areas, maybe machine learning is more appropriate. In other areas, such as workflow and interactions with customers, AI can come to the fore. And one example I think is quite relevant here is in reconciliation, where with our services, we have machine learning built in from the ground up. Our services learn the previous reconciliations. So when you bring two data sets together, from the outset, there's a very high match rate because it's learned from what's been done previously. And then as users add manual matches, it learns from that. And I guess the important part from an operations standpoint is you can then look at those manual matches, the service will recommend new rules, and you can do it before and after. You can say, do I want to apply that rule or not, and then decide to put it into production. And that's utilizing machine learning, whereas AI, I think, is more suited to the workflows and what you do when you've got a break. And we're finding that firms have quite often selected their large language model or their preferred large language model already. So as a vendor, we don't want to commit to one LLM. So vendors are now, I think the direction of travel will be that you'll need to connect your customers' own chosen LLMs, maybe using model context protocols, so that the customer can choose where they want to go with their own AI choices.
And coming to the topic of advanced payment controls, what capabilities should a unified platforms for global payments investigations offer to meet the needs of modern financial institutions?
But the most important thing is the interoperability capability and adding new payment rails, because the landscape is changing quite rapidly. So we need to be able to offer to our customers the ability to add those new potentially cryptocurrencies. The digital payments world is changing fast, as well as those traditional payment rails such as SWIFT, CHAPS, FedWire, and in the background, I think there's now 400 million SWIFT payments a year. And when we get exceptions, they can take on average 5 days to resolve. So it's really important you have the flexibility to enable those exceptions to be managed well, and you've got the workflow around that.
In summary then, what is your advice for those looking to thrive going forward?
Well, I think you want to embrace AI, but as you said in the first question, we need to be able to embrace it in a way that's controlled and can be implemented in such a way that it smoothly sort of runs through your platform.
Fantastic, some good advice to end on. James, thank you so much for your insights. As you say, this is an ever-changing digital landscape, so it's interesting to see how Smartstream is helping those navigate that changing landscape, but we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, and I'll let you get back to Sibos.
Great, thank you, Hannah.